Hi everyone, this is Jennifer Miller and you are watching the archival recording for our Week 1 course overview for the producing class. Thank you for watching. Make sure you review everything in this presentation, and if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do is share my contact information with you guys. So the best way that you can reach me this month is by email. That is my preferred method of contact. But you can also reach me through FSO messages. And I also have my cell phone number available that will ring directly straight to me. My cell phone number is 407-984-7677. You can call or text me on that number, guys, during my office hours, which are listed down here. Now, if you need assistance outside of my office hours, then I just ask that you email me first and we can set up a phone appointment. The classes that I am currently teaching in here at Full Sail Online are Portfolio 1, which I may have had some of you in that class a while back. If so, hello, good to see you again. And so that's Portfolio 1, career module personal branding that goes along with Portfolio 1. I also teach a class called Popular Culture in Media, which is a general education course. And then this class is producing, and I also have another class very similar called Producing Independent Film that is for students on another track. So at any given time, I could be teaching any of these classes. I also sometimes assist with the Visual Storytelling 1 class, so you may have seen me in that class early on in your program as well. So the reason that I'm sharing this is to kindly ask that you guys please include your class name whenever you're contacting me. So if you're texting me or sending me an email outside of the portal, or if you're leaving me a voicemail, please include the name of your class. I try very hard to learn all of my students' names as quickly as possible. Usually, like, just by the time that I know everyone really well and what class they're in, it's time to move on to the next class, which is the nature of our program. But it'll really help me serve you quicker with a faster response time if you include what the name of the class is. And then a little bit about myself. This is my family here. I have been a Full Sail instructor since 2007. My undergraduate degree is in film, video, and media, and communications as well. And then I did my master's program online in media studies with a concentration in film form. So because I did that program online, I can really understand what you guys go through when you are working full-time, juggling family responsibilities, juggling your classes. So I totally understand that world because I have been in it. And then I routinely do freelance work, usually a couple times a month, as a producer or a production manager here in the Central Florida area. And then I'm also a small business owner, and I include that because a lot of our students are interested in considering starting up their own production company after graduation. So if that's something that you're interested in and you have any questions in terms of the startup steps or legally filing for your LLC, anything along those lines, I am more than happy to help you in any way I can if you have questions about starting a small business. Okay. As I go through the presentation today, please don't hesitate to type in the chat box if you have any questions, if you need me to explain something further, and we can just stop and loop back. If it's a question that I'm going to be answering in an upcoming slide, then I'll just let you know at that time that we'll be getting right to that. So go ahead and type in the chat box at any point. It is on my other screen, but I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on it as we go. And then at the end, we can open up the mics if you have any questions that you want to ask on air, or you can type in your questions on the chat as well. So this class is a 4-credit hour, 400 level course. Our course code is FLM 464, and the course catalog summary explains that we are focusing on the world of producing from pre-production through the final deliverables. The we're looking at the responsibilities of the producer. So that can include script supervision, cast and crew selection, location logistics, budgeting, and scheduling. We're going to be creating that documentation within that pre-production planning phase. We are not shooting any video this month. You will not be turning in any video this month. And by the time we're done with today's session, I think you'll have a more clear understanding of exactly what we are and aren't doing for the class. I do want to point out, though, that as a 4-credit hour, 400 level course, this is considered a senior level class. A 4-credit hour class is going to require more work hours or homework hours to earn that amount of credits. And that's something that's determined by our accreditation board. So if it feels like this class is a little bit heavier or a little bit more of a workload than some of your prior courses, the credit hours may be the reason. The project that we'll be working on this month is a commercial project considering a small business client. So you guys are going to be looking for or considering a real world small business, and that's what we're going to focus our efforts on this month. Ideally, we'd like you to find something in your area, in your city, or in your hometown. But if you have a connection to a small business that is online based or that is not local to you, but you still have communication or some kind of a connection with them, then we can definitely make exceptions to that. If you don't want to take the commercial kind of sales route, students also have the option of pursuing a nonprofit PSA. PSA is a public service announcement. So you'd be choosing a local nonprofit organization. Okay? You're not required to initiate contact at this time. That means you do not have to reach out and talk to the client and ask them if they're willing to let you shoot this project. None of that is required right now. All we're doing is looking in your local town or your area, thinking of an idea for someone that you may want to pitch a project to, and that's all you have to do at this point. Now, this concept may be used for an upcoming class project for your this portfolio term, but it doesn't have to be. So if you complete your plan this month and you decide that this isn't really the route that you want to take, that's okay. If you complete this plan and you pitch it to your client and they decide that they're not really interested in having a commercial done, or they're not able to work in your timetable within the next month or two, that's okay. So we're just considering a potential small business or not local nonprofit. Now, we do have some students who tell me, Jennifer, I'd like to just reach out to them now and see if they're realistically interested before I spend my time planning this month. If that's something that you want to do, by all means, I will support you. And I think that that's great. And those students are planning ahead and they're really considering pursuing this commercial as a project in a future month. But it's totally optional and up to you guys. We have a document. I'm going to grab the bigger version. We have a document called Finding a Client. So if you're having trouble thinking of ideas in your area for either your small business commercial or your nonprofit PSA, we have a download in the week 1 deliverables folder. And it just has some like brainstorming starter points. So these are organizations that many of which are in most cities or towns. So things like a family-owned restaurant or a bakery. We have on here a doctor's office, any kind of doctor, dentist, eye doctor, a pediatrician. We have a preschool or a daycare. We have a local realty company, a bookstore or maybe a comic book store, a house cleaning service, music lessons, or like a private sports coach that gives individual lessons for any sports in the area, pet sitting, a veterinarian's office, a local photographer, maybe an electrician, maybe a vendor at your local farmer's market that you walk around and see what might interest you. Maybe a local car wash, okay, or a florist. These are all just ideas to kind of get you started thinking about options. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, yeah, I have a florist in my town. Then you will do the research to look into what options they are, and you'll select one specific business that you would be interested in planning this essentially pitch for. Does that make sense? Other options on the second page are nonprofit organizations ideas. So nonprofits could be a church or a ministry, the local Special Olympics organization, Junior Achievement, a local women's shelter or homeless shelter, an animal rescue, or animal sanctuaries, depending on where you live. Any local disabled veterans support organizations or a branch of that. Teacher support organizations or clubs, the local historical society. And some colleges or universities are nonprofit. So these are just some, again, ideas of nonprofit options if you want to take that PSA or public service announcement route. And there's a clarification down below in terms of not-for-profit versus nonprofit and what that means when you guys are looking. Now, if you have any questions while you're deciding on your client as to whether you think it will qualify as a small business or a local nonprofit, then I absolutely encourage you to reach out to me, send me a message, and let me know what you're thinking about. And I'll be able to pretty quickly clarify for you if it will work or if it won't. The only client selections that will not be approved for use this month are students who don't choose a small business or a local nonprofit. In other words, if they choose a nonprofit, they are choosing a nationally based organization, like, for example, the Truth Campaign. That would not be considered a local nonprofit unless they happen to be based in your area and you have a line of communication to the manager, owner in charge of that organization. For small businesses, I've had students who have pitched, like for a small business, like bigger companies like Apple, or like Florida Hospital for us here in Florida, which, if you're not familiar, it's a very big, large branch of probably hundreds of locations. So the only time students' clients are not approved are if they're not considered a small business or a local business. Does that make sense? If anyone has any questions about this, go ahead and type them into the chat box. Do you guys have any ideas so far of clients that kind of come to mind that you might be thinking about using? If you do, type them into the chat box. I would love to hear them. So I'm going to keep moving along. There's a note on this slide that we have to pause and remind students that all content submitted in this class must be original work, not submitted in a prior class. So that means any footage or still images that may have been a part of another project that you did in an earlier class in the program cannot be reused in the class, and that's just university policy. Zachary says, I'm thinking about a local museum that is owned by county government. Will that be okay? Yeah, that should be fine. I think that sounds like a great idea. That would fall most likely under the nonprofit organization category, but you could check with the museum directly to see if they're considered a nonprofit. If not, you can still pursue it as a small business. And I think that's a great idea. Yeah. If it's a smaller museum, it's most likely considered a nonprofit organization, and your PSA can really help to get the word out for the benefit of the community, which is really what a public service announcement is about. So I think that would be a good fit. Sure. And Jacob says, I have a local pawn shop where I once worked. Yeah, that's great. A pawn shop is absolutely a local small business as long as they're not like a big national chain, as long as they're privately owned. And if you've already worked there, then you already have the connections to that business or that organization. So if you do decide to move forward with this concept, most likely they already know you and would be happy to work with you, I'm assuming. So that sounds like a great idea as well. 4 locations in your county. Great. Yes. Sounds good. Okay. So let's keep going. Next, we have the DCBS program pipeline, and I include this slide to give you guys kind of a bird's eye view of what the remaining classes are in the program, okay? So we are in the producing class, which is typically month 25. And the following is the order of classes that the average or typical student will take as they complete the DCBS program. However, this might not be the exact order of classes that you will take. Things can change the order of your classes, such as academic holds, transfer credits, any interruptions of training or time off, or a few other things. So if you want to find out your specific order of your remaining classes, I would suggest reaching out to the advising department. But for most students, you're going to leave producing after this month, and next month you're going to go into mobility and data management. It's at that time where you will be deciding on the project that you'll be pursuing for this portfolio track. And that class is taught by Geo Swan. And then in month 27, that is our project and portfolio 6. And then after that we have, that's taught by Ed Stork. This is actually a production month where you will be shooting and even begin editing your project. Then we have month 28, which is web design along with pop culture and media. Maybe I'll get to see you guys again. Those 2 classes are back-to-back, side-by-side. You'll take them simultaneously. So it is a very busy month. The web design class is taught by my good friend Abby Greenlee. Also another great class where you will be building your website and portfolio before graduation. Then after month 28, you have month 29, the last class in the program, which is project and portfolio 7. So what we did was we looked at this and we realized that there are only, 2 core classes before portfolio 6. And there's only 1 month before portfolio 7. And that 1 month is a very busy month, and neither of these classes are considered a core class in the DCBS program. So because of that, what we did was we basically combined portfolio 6 and 7, these 2 classes here, into one portfolio project. So 6 and 7 represent the same project. Some people call it our final project in the program because it's your last portfolio. So even though they are 2 different class names, we consider them to be the same portfolio project. Does that make sense? It's a little bit confusing. So starting this month, we are working our way towards that final project goal. Let me tell you what it's going to be. This is the final portfolio project options. So you have 3 options to choose from when you're creating this last video project for our program. The first one is a client-based commercial. That might sound familiar. That's because everything that we wrote in this class in producing, the requirements for what we're planning will fit in exactly with the requirements for this project if you choose to take the commercial route. Now, they will let you turn in that small business commercial or the nonprofit PSA, and the PSA is still categorized under that client-based commercial umbrella. If you choose this route, when you turn in your final production deliverables, your final edits, you're going to be turning in a 60-second edit, a 30-second edit, and a 15-second edit. So you'll actually be turning in 3 different edits. Now this month in the producing class, all of our pre-production planning is going to be based around that 60-second piece, that 60-second edit, because obviously that's the longer version. Then from there, you guys will have the task of editing down a 30-second and a 15-second version. Many students like to create some additional shot lists to get some extra B-roll to be able to have a little bit more play and some more options when you're in the editing process for creating those other edit lengths, okay? So again, just keep in mind, we're not shooting or editing any video this month, but if you choose this client-based commercial, you'll have your complete pre-production plans for the 60-second edit, and you'll just have to create the 30-second and 15-second versions as well. Now, if you decide that you don't want to take the commercial or PSA routes and you want to do something different, then that is absolutely fine. The other 2 options that you can pursue for this project are a mini documentary or a narrative. If you're doing a mini doc or a narrative, the assembly edits need to be a minimum of 6 minutes and a maximum of 10 minutes. And then your final edit that you'll turn in down the line is going to be a minimum of 6 minutes and a maximum of 8 minutes. There are no exceptions to the time requirements. So you'll notice that these are a little bit longer of an edit, of course, than our commercial edited lengths. But you guys can choose any of these project options. Now I will tell you that if you choose to pursue the mini doc or the narrative, there will not be any specific assignments in class or time in your upcoming classes to create the pre-production materials. So that means that if you choose one of these routes, you'll basically be on your own to create all of your pre-production planning documents. However, you will have just completed them this month and you'll still have all of your templates saved from this month, and you'll be able to use the documents that you're creating and producing basically as references. So it'll all be very fresh in your mind, and all you'll do is go back to your templates and open them up and create new content for the mini doc and the narrative, and you can look back on your own work this month as a reference to how to format these documents and all of this paperwork. Okay, so those are your options. And this slide is more for students who are downloading our keynote, who are not here with us or watching through this recording. So this is basically just saying everything I just said. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. All pre-production work created in this class is a plan and not a commitment. This is something I tell all of my producing students and project planning students. So you're not locked into anything. If you guys want to change your concept at any time, if you want to change your client altogether, down to if you want to change, where your B-roll is going to be shot or the location that it's going to take place, if you need to change the title, the working title of the project, if you want to change out one of your crew members or your talent, any of that can be done at any time without any penalty. So I don't want you guys to feel like you're locked into anything. We're just coming up with a plan, okay? We just want to see what your ideas are. You can change them at any time. Also, a reminder, you can check out our example commercial project, which is a 60-second edit that is in line with the upcoming Portfolio 6 and 7 project requirements. You can find that video in our class resources section in FSL. Okay. So we went over the basics of what our project is going to be this month. And now I want to go through the week-by-week requirements, just the basics, to give you guys kind of an advanced heads up on what we'll be doing this month. If you have any questions about any of the topics that I'm going to be talking about, type them into the chat box and I can further explain. So this week in week 1, we are doing our first discussion board. It's going to be in FSO, just the traditional style discussion, and the topic is working as an employee versus working freelance or as an independent contractor in our industry. So we have some materials for you guys to look over. You're going to post your initial post by Thursday this week and then add 2 responses by Sunday. Then we have our week 1 deliverables. Now this month you'll hear the word deliverables a lot. That's just another way of saying your project files or your project submissions. So the week 1 deliverables are going to be due by the end of the week on Sunday. The first deliverable is your proposal document, which I'm going to pull up and we're going to go through that together shortly so we can take a look at it. That's the one that you should do first because that is going to tell me who your intended client is that you'll be working with or on this month for all of your materials that we're planning. To stay ahead of the game, try to complete this earlier, midweek. If you can complete it a couple days before your other assignments, that would be best because it will really help you think about who your client is and what will benefit them the most in terms of your plan. So in that proposal, you are selecting the real-world client and then including a treatment, which is a detailed concept plan telling me basically what your idea is, what is going to happen on screen in this project. Then, also due on Sunday, is your AV script. It's 1 to 3 pages long. Now, the script is the deliverable that a lot of students struggle with. I know that you guys have written scripts in multiple formats in this program so far. You have worked on a narrative script before. You've also worked in the AV script format before. You may have worked even in other formats depending on what the individual project was. Maybe you wrote a comic book formatted script or another type of script. So those formatting requirements may become a bit jumbled. So I strongly recommend that the first thing you do is go to our AV script tutorial video, which is a video that was created by Mike Hanley from the screenwriting class, and carefully watch that review because it's all about formatting at this point, and we want to make sure that you guys understand how to correctly format the AV script because this is going to be your last script submission for a grade in our program. So this is like the last checkpoint. So I got to make sure that you guys understand correct formatting for that script. It needs to be at least 1 full page, but it can be up to 3 full pages, okay? And when you download the assignment, by the way, guys, in most of our assignments, we have tutorial videos in addition to the written directions, and then almost all of the deliverables also have an example or a sample project. So when you download the packets of the download materials in the activity, all that information is going to be with it, okay? So definitely check out in this case, the example script, and you can look at it before you turn yours in and just make sure that it looks similar to the sample or the example to make sure that you're on the right track. Then we are also doing storyboards this week. We need to storyboard out all of your scripted shots. Now the script has a 10-shot requirement. So on that first page, we need to have 10 shots, at least 1 scene, but however many scenes that you want as long as you have 1. So 10 shots in your script. So we need to see at least 10 storyboarded shots. But if your script has more than 10 shots, let's say your script has 16 shots, for example, then we need to see 16 shots planned in your storyboards as well. So the storyboards need to be the complete representation of the script. To create your storyboards, you guys have a few options. We do want to see original images that you have the rights to. So that means we are not permitting students to go to Google and search found images or copyrighted images. We want to make sure you guys have the full rights to your work so that you can, if needed, show these storyboards to your client or post them on your portfolio website that you're going to be creating to show off your planning skills. So we want to make sure that you have the rights to the images. So for the storyboards, you can either sketch them by hand, you can sketch them on paper and then take photographs or scan those illustrations in. You can also sketch them digitally in your computer. Some students like to use Photoshop, but there's also many different sketch apps. You guys can use your iPads and sketch out your shots on there. Or you can take still photos using your camera. I honestly don't care if it is your kit camera, your Sony camera, or if it's your cell phone. As long as the pictures are clear and in focus and we can see what you're trying to portray, that's fine with me. And then the final choice is to use an app. Now, the app that we have approved is called Storyboard That. More information in the assignment instructions, but you can use this app. It's not always a free app, but there's a free trial. So that's the catch. You can sign up for a free trial and you can use this app. If you want to use another storyboard app that is different than the one we have listed, just send me an email and tell me more about it and give me the link, and I will be happy to look at it. So that's everything that's due for week 1 in terms of project work. I know it looks like a lot, but it is doable if you guys stay focused. Then we have our week 1 quiz. For the quizzes, I try to bump those an extra day. So instead of being due on Sunday, I made your week 1 quiz due the following Monday. So you have 1 extra day to do that, which will give you time if you're a student that needs to work over the weekends, for example, because you work during the week, then that will give you an extra day to complete your quiz. Okay? And the quizzes are just the FSO quiz, pretty straightforward. I think they're about 10 questions each, so not too long. And the materials that we use and reference in the quizzes comes from your class tutorial videos and also your reading assignments for the week. Any questions so far? Oh, I see a question. Okay, Zachary is asking, using the camera to capture the shots for the storyboard or drawings. Okay, so for the storyboard, you can choose either or. You can choose to sketch out your images and make illustrations, or you can sketch them on the computer, or you can take still photos. If you want to do a combination, you can do that too. Sometimes I've had students who they take photos of the background location. So let's say they know they're going to be shooting in a park. They'll go to the park and they'll take just wide shot photos of like the park background. But if it's only themselves and they don't have any stand-in talent to stand in their shot, then they will take those wide shot images into, let's say, Photoshop or a sketching app, and they'll add in like a stick figure to represent the characters. By the way, if you guys want to use stick figures, I'm okay with that. All I ask is that make sure you use like a cross hatching. Do you guys know what I mean by that? Hold on. Make sure we utilize a cross-hatching symbol or a symbol for their nose when you're doing your storyboards. So let me see if you can see this. Okay, so this is like the head, right? Well, let me give him a body. That's like the head of our stick man. So when I say cross-hatching, you're going to do that T line on their face, and that's going to tell us what direction they're looking. Now you don't have to draw in the eyes or the mouth, but I'm just drawing them here to give you an idea of how it works. So that's going to tell us what direction your characters are looking in, okay? So as long as you have that cross-hatching, or alternatively, you can use the nose symbol which is just like a half of a triangle. And that tells us what direction that person is looking in, okay? If it's just an open circle, then I can't tell if the person's looking at us, looking away from us, looking up, down, whatever. So part of showing that crosshatch design or that nose symbol is going to tell us screen direction in your storyboards. Okay, so if you're not using actual people to stand in, I need to see the framing information, where the person's standing in relation to the frame, and I need to see what direction they're looking at. Okay? Does that answer your question, Zachary? Yeah, of course. You're welcome, Jacob. Good question. Okay. So that was week 1. Are we good with everything else on week 1? Remember, I'm going to go back to the proposal and look at that in more detail in a minute. Okay. One more question. I completed my readings and video tutorials. I'm not sure what most film commissions require to have film permits, short-term general liability. Okay, so film permits are going to vary greatly depending on the city and state that you live in and the film board or the film committee's individual requirements. In most cases, they are going to require a general liability coverage policy of a minimum $1 million coverage. However, if you are a student and you're working on a student project, then that is something that you should always communicate to your film commission and let them know, because in some cases exceptions can be made to the minimum policy requirements for insurance. And we have some tools this week, some basic tools, and we have some references to like Event Helper that we are talking about, which is one of the organizations that the program approves of and suggests the use of, because we've been working with them for a while. A lot of our students have gone through them, but it's not the only option. You should always try to get 3 different quotes. And you can also talk to your local film commission and see if they have any suggestions for local options in your area, right? More of the suggestions that we can provide are more national suggestions because we have students all over the country. The paperwork that releases the permitting is something that I specialize in, but just the way the classes work out, you will be getting into it in more detail in your next class in mobility and data management. But if you guys have any individual questions about that paperwork or those releases, by all means, do not hesitate to let me know. When I work as a production manager, that's pretty much everything that I'm responsible for and take care of. Cool? Okay. So let's go into week 2. In week 2 this month, you are going to be doing a discussion board. That's still an FSO, but it's set up a little bit differently. And the title of the discussion board is called Feed Your Crew. And this is the only task this month, guys, where we are thinking about a hypothetical project or a fictional shoot. So for this assignment, you are imagining that you are planning a fictional shoot. The production is going to take place at a nearby park in your city or town. So find or think about a park that you drive by, on your way to the grocery store or anything. In that park, you are going to be shooting a one-day production, and you need to come up with a catering plan to feed your cast and crew for that shoot. Now, there's more information, of course, in the assignment instructions, but the catch is that when you're doing this discussion board, if you post at the very beginning of the week, if you're one of the first people to post, you will have the largest budget to work with, hypothetical, of course, Monopoly money. You'll have the largest budget to work with, and you will have the smallest number of cast and crew. So that's kind of like the luxury budget. You can basically afford almost anything that you want. I mean, you can probably feed your crew steaks if you want to. So you will have more of a wide open search that you can go through. Now, as the week progresses with each day or posting day for week 2, the budget and the number of people are going to change. So if you were to wait until, let's say, the day that it was due, which is Thursday, that first post, compared to the first day the forum opens, people who post on Thursday will have the smallest budget and they will have the largest number of cast and crew. Now, regardless of what day you post, it's totally doable to be able to find healthy and hot meals to serve your cast and crew for the amount of money that we have hypothetically provided. But, you know, it is a little bit of an incentive to get your posts in a little earlier than maybe you would have otherwise. So the initial post is going to be your plan, your catering plan, and you're going to tell us what restaurant or catering business that you'll be using, what food items you have selected, and how much your total is going to cost you. So you're going to respond to those prompts by Thursday. Now, regardless, everyone needs to post at least one peer reply by the end of the week by Sunday when the forum closes, okay? So reply to at least one of your classmates by Sunday. However, the other twist in this discussion board is that I like to put everyone's name in the class in a random name generator, and I will pull out usually 4 to 5 students' names, completely random, and those students will be given kind of a surprise prompt, a real world challenge, if you will, and this will just be an extra question that they have to reply to of a very realistic problem or situation that may come up on your hypothetical shoot, and we want to know how you're going to handle that. So if you're chosen as one of these students for an extra surprise prompt, you will ultimately have a minimum of 2 required posts. If you're chosen, I will be posting this surprise prompt by Friday in week 2, and I will also send you an FSO message just to make sure you see it and realize that you have that extra requirement, and then you'll have until the end of the week on Sunday night to post your reply. Okay? So that's the discussion board for week 2. The deliverables for week 2 are the projects that we're working on. The first is your crew list. Now this project, guys, it does not take very long to do. The actual worksheet assignment will probably take you like 15 minutes, honestly. But the work that goes into it is the act of actually going out, talking to people, networking, and finding potential crew members. So the work that goes into it is more than just filling out the sheet is, if that makes sense. So for your crew list, we want you guys to find a 3-person crew that includes yourself. So it's you and 2 other people. If you can find more than 2 people, then that's wonderful, but you are only required to find 2 other people along with yourself, and that would make a 3-person crew. And whether or not you decide to pursue this commercial or PSA project, we want this to be a team that you could use either way for your upcoming portfolio 6 and 7 project for your upcoming shoots. So this can be people that live in your area. They can be family or friends if they have experience or if they can be trained. So if you're really stuck and you can't find anyone, but you have a close friend that is willing to help you out on your shoots, some positions like teaching them to hold a boom pole or, you know, crowd control, things like that, production assistants, they can probably be someone that you can train. But ultimately, we would love for you guys to find other potential crew members in your area. So there's more info in the instructions on how to do that, but you can reach out to your film commission. You can talk to other local, maybe community colleges that have a film program as well. You can use online networking tools like Production Hub or Facebook groups for filmmakers in your area. So there are a lot of ways to reach out and start looking for potential crew members. Then you have your location information sheets. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail because these came exactly from your location shooting class with Elizabeth Rowney. So you guys should already know how to do these. We're going to do 2. So I want to see 2 potential shoot locations for this idea. Now, if you only have one location in mind, let's say you're shooting a bakery and it's a specific small business about a bakery. So why would you, go to any other bakery location? Well, we still want you guys to think about alternate options or backup options. And if neither of those make sense, then we want you to think about additional B-roll options. Now, again, this is just a plan. So you guys are not required to actually shoot in these locations, but it's just an idea and showing that you can properly fill out the form and complete the research that we need for, the contact information and the logistics for these spaces. On those info sheets, you're going to have 2 location photos for each sheet. Now, for this assignment, you are allowed to use found images from Google, from the internet. You just have to make sure you cite those sources, okay? If you're ever using an image that is not your own, always put a citation with it. Then in week 2, we're doing the budget. Make sure you guys have your Movie Magic budgeting and Movie Magic scheduling apps installed and working correctly on your laptop. These are the apps that cause the most problems for students who think it's working, but they don't actually have them or something goes wrong. So double check, make sure you have those apps ready and available. We're going to be doing a budget assignment. This is kind of a next level. You guys did a budget back in Fundamentals of Production 1. So now we're kind of taking it to the next level. We're looking at this specific budget for this commercial or this PSA that you're pursuing. We want you to consider your gear and equipment costs. Even though you guys already have your own gear, we want you to think about what the rental cost would be to rent that gear for one day. And there's more information in the instructions to help you with that. But if you're ever pitching a budget to a client that you're doing a project for, you don't want to just say, well, I have the gear, so that's not going to cost you anything. You want to make sure that you're accounting for the wear and tear on your gear and your equipment, okay? Because if they weren't getting it for free from you, they would need to be renting that. So even if you provide a discount, we still want to see that you considered the potential cost of that gear. So I'm getting off track, but the budget is something you're going to fill out. And again, we're going to do some next level steps. We're going to talk about fringes and we're going to create global settings. And then you'll be turning that in as a project, as a Movie Magic project file by Sunday. Week 2 quiz, due on Monday. You have an extra day for that. And then I think this is actually open in week 1 now, but I gave you guys the materials ahead of time to begin preparing a producer's letter or a press release, because we're using that in week 3, which I'm going to move right along to. So week 3 is a peer critique discussion. You're writing up a producer's letter, which is a letter that is addressed to either local businesses or local community members who may be affected by your shoot or by your production. So we're going to fill that out, or you can alternatively choose to set up a formal press release. Either way, these are like one-page documents, guys, and I gave you the materials ahead of time because they take a little more time than the traditional discussion board initial post. So I want you to spend a little more time on it, which is why I gave it to you a little bit earlier, but it's still like a lighter, more like an exercise than a full-on project, if that makes sense. So you want to post that document, either the press release or the producer's letter, by Thursday. Then we will be providing 2 peer replies by Sunday. And again, that's more of a peer critique format, so consider things that you've learned in the past, like the RISE model, if that sounds familiar, for providing peer critiques or peer reviews. Then in week 3 for the project work that's going to be due on Sunday, this week is a little bit heavier than the other weeks, if I'm being honest. And you actually have 5 project submissions in week 3, but it's only 3 main subjects, if that makes sense. So the shooting script and the script breakdown. So after you turn in your script in week 1, everyone's going to get grade feedback. Almost everyone, or maybe everyone, typically receives notes for areas that could be improved upon. So those are your requested revisions to work on to make that script better. So when we turn in our script again, the same script in week 3, I want to see that you've looked at those notes from week 1 and that you've applied any of those revisions that I've asked you to make. If you have questions about the changes that I'm asking you, by all means reach out to me and let me know so that I can help you or further clarify. But you're going to make those revisions from week 1, and then you are going to be turning in a shooting script, so you're going to be adding a couple things to it, such as shot numbering and estimated shot lengths. So we're just building upon that clean script version. That's your shooting script submission. Then we have a script breakdown. That's taking your shooting script exactly how it is as a base, and we're color coding on top of it, and we're adding in some page measurement lines to help us evaluate the length of our scenes, which will be useful for scheduling, okay? So again, 2 different submissions, but they're the same base script. So they're really not 2 whole different projects. Then you have your shot list. Your shot list is organized by location, and it's filled out for all scripted shots. This is a document that you've seen many times in prior classes, so I don't expect anyone to have any trouble with it. Then we have your shoot schedule, which is created using Movie Magic scheduling. Now you need to schedule at least 1 day, and this schedule will actually have 2 deliverables for it. So you're putting in all of your information into Movie Magic scheduling. This is an application that you used in an earlier class, like Fundamentals of Production 1, but a lot of students need a refresher on this one. It's not as user-friendly, even though it's an industry standard software application. So I have a very detailed tutorial video that will walk you guys through every step within the scheduling process that we want you to complete. So follow along, put it up on the side and go along and pause it and enter your information as you watch that tutorial. And then when you're done entering all of your information into Movie Magic scheduling, you're going to be exporting 2 different files. One is a strip board, and one is just that digital shooting schedule. And both of those documents are documents that I personally use with my crews or my production teams, and they're going to be helpful to you as well in sending those out to your teams when you're ready to shoot. Now, we're choosing hypothetical kind of days at this point because you don't know the exact dates where or when you'll be shooting this project, or if you'll be shooting this project, right? If you choose a different option for Portfolio 6. So we're just putting in dates within the next month or 2 right now. But guys, it's very easy to go back to this project file and just literally drag and drop your calendar date from one day on the calendar to a different day. And that will move your entire schedule that you've already planned and prepared just to a different date. So that's one way the app is very convenient, and one of the reasons why we're going through all this planning steps, because you'll still be able to use that planning material. Then you have your week 3 quiz. That's due on Monday as well, so an extra day to do that. And finally, week 4, the last week of class. It will be here before we know it. Classes go so fast. So for me at least, I don't know about you guys, but our discussion in week 4 is kind of cool. We're talking about copywriting and branding, and it's something that I'm sure we've mentioned in prior classes, but we were a little bit more lax in terms of what we let into your student films or your student projects. At this point, we are trying to have you guys focus on a client-based project. So we really want you to be aware of any copyright, trademark concerns that are going to be found on screen. So we have some reading materials, and then you're going to be creating a flat lay image. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. A flat lay is either like a live photo that you take of an outfit, like clothing, shoes, maybe accessories, or you can create it digitally. We have an app and a website that help with that, so you can do it either way. You're going to create an outfit plan for one of your characters in your script or one of your real-world talent in your script, and you're going to create a plan for something that they might wear in this project that is free of copyright concerns. Okay, so it doesn't have any Nike symbols or logos on it. So that's something that you guys will be creating and posting by Thursday, and then you have 2 peer responses by the end of the week on Sunday. There's no quiz in week 4, so you have a little bit of a break from that. And the deliverables that we're going to be doing at the end are kind of our lighter deliverables, in my opinion. I don't think they take quite as long to complete for the average student. We're doing casting catalogs. That is considering who might play one of the roles in your script. And you only have to do a requirement of 1. So you're going to find 1 person that may potentially act in this script if you were to move forward into production. And you're going to fill out their contact information, add a headshot, pretty simple and straightforward. Then you have location maps. We're creating 2 location maps. Those go hand in hand with our call sheets. Your location maps are going to be drawn from those 2 potential shoot locations that we talked about in week 2. So now we're just creating the maps. We have a template. You're going to use Google Maps. You're going to have 1 location image with it, and just fill out that template form, look at that sample to see what we're looking for, and it's pretty, again, pretty straightforward. Usually we don't have any students have any trouble. Then you have your call sheets. Now the call sheets might be a document that is new to you guys. This is one of the very few things that I get the pleasure of introducing this month that hasn't already been covered in detail in an earlier class. And I love it because call sheets are one of the most important documents when it comes to planning the film. It makes sure that everyone gets to where they need to be, gets there on time, hopefully, and it really is an important tool in the logistics of planning for your production days. So we're doing at least 1 call sheet for at least 1 shoot day. And again, there's going to be tutorial video and more information in the instructions. Okay. So that's everything that I have to go over for the first 4 weeks. I'm going to open up our proposal review, and this is kind of like the end, you'll see here. Do you guys have any questions before I pull up the proposal of anything that I just went over so far in terms of like the week by week requirements? No? All right, so let's look at this proposal because this is going to be the first assignment that you do in this class. This deliverable is basically set up like a worksheet. This first page is like some directions and reminders for the requirements. When you turn it in, you can just delete this first page because I don't need it, or you can leave it either way. But so it's going to have like the description, right? We're doing a small business commercial or a PSA. We are planning this proposal to share the basic scope and focus of your project and what your idea is. You're not required to communicate with your client at this time. And we're not required to shoot the project this month. So let's see. Just keep in mind no fictional products where clients are permitted, so you cannot make up a client that doesn't exist. They do need to be a real world business or nonprofit. Let me see if I can make this bigger. We want you to make sure you're focusing on small brands, no big brands like Nike, Starbucks, or Ford. Projects need to include B-roll, at least 1 exterior shot, and at least 1 line of recorded dialogue. So you need to at least have 1 line of dialogue. That can be a narrator, a voiceover, or someone talking on screen. It's totally up to you, but we need to at least see 1 line of recorded dialogue so that we know that you know how to properly format that in pre-production and in production so that you know how to correctly record and mix your levels. And let's see. That's it for specs. So let's go on down to the actual worksheet. So the beginning of the worksheet is going to be your basic information, your student ID, your email. Then for the project type, you're just going to type in, are you choosing the commercial or the PSA? And whenever you guys fill this out, you're going to delete this italicized text and you'll just type in your answer instead. So the client name, what's their name, address, basic contact information, basic business hours. This should be something that you guys can find online or through a little bit of research about the organization. You do not have to actually talk to the owner to find out this information. It should be readily available to you. The product or service, what's a description of what do they do or what do they sell? If it's a nonprofit, how do they help the community? That sort of thing. Then for your basic proposal information section, we want a working title. This can change at any time. We want an objective. So what's the goal of the campaign? This is like a couple sentences, right? Kind of like your elevator pitch. Just a few sentences of like, what is the primary goal? What do you want to happen? Are you selling something? Do you want someone to find out about this company who didn't know about it previously? What's the goal? Then the treatment. The treatment is the core or the heart of the proposal. It needs to be at least 200 words, okay? It's a couple paragraphs. So this is your treatment in consideration of the 60-second edit. We need you to share a visual walkthrough of each part of the story or information presented. So we want you to think about intended action. In other words, what will the audience see happening on screen in this film, okay? So try to avoid speaking in generalities in this. Try to avoid kind of vague statements. In other words, let me give an example. So we would prefer that you not say something like, my main character, Jane, learns her lesson and finds out that things are not always as they appear. So while that statement sounds engaging and is kind of exciting, it doesn't tell us what's going to happen, right, in this project. So a better example would be Jane, attends an event for networking with her business. And when she arrives, she realizes that people are not interested in networking and they're there for other reasons, like whatever you want to go into. Sorry, I'm bad at making examples. But whatever you want to go into, as long as you're telling us examples of the action, right? Examples of the things that we're actually going to see happening in this project. Does that make sense? So be as detailed as you can be. Again, it's a plan and not a commitment. So when you write your script, if you write your script a couple days later and you change some things, and instead of going to, a networking convention, Jane is just flying to meet an old friend in another city. If it changes slightly, but it's the same kind of core focus in terms of your client, then that's fine. Okay, we just want to see this plan kind of developing and taking shape, and we understand that that means that things can change along the way. Okay. Let's keep going. The project scope and budget. So we want to know locations. What locations are you thinking about? Now, we've already talked that we have a few different deliverable projects that have to do with locations. So this is the first time that you're thinking about possible locations that might be a good fit. We want you to be as detailed as you can be at this point. So for example, if you want to shoot in a school, Instead of saying, okay, I'm thinking about using a school, then do you think it should be an elementary school or a high school? Because those are going to have very different looks. So then you think, okay, it needs to be like a high school environment. So then instead of saying high school, start to think about in your area, do you know of a high school that you have connections with, or maybe that looks cool, or that you just know of that you would be interested in pursuing? So if you think, okay, I went to South Park High School and I know some people there and they would probably help me out if I asked them to shoot a scene there, then you can say South Park High School as a potential location. Again, not locked into it. We're not going to go back later and double check that you got the exact school that you thought you might possibly use. But saying that is a lot more detailed and focused than just saying, I'm going to use a school. And it shows us that you've thought more about your production plans. Then we need the number of talent needed. Consider your extra and leads based on how many people you think are going to be required for the script. Then we need critical props, any expensive, sizable, or crucial props. If you're selling a product, that product needs to be listed here, right? If you're selling a candy bar, then that's going to be a critical prop to selling the candy bar. Also, vehicles, if they need to be in your production, add those on here as well. Then we have your estimated budget. That's your anticipated out-of-pocket costs. Unfortunately, the DCBS program cannot provide funds for this production, so consider how much money you think it might cost you to shoot and produce this short commercial or PSA. Moving right along to distribution and marketing, this is the last section. I want you guys to think about your target audience. Really think about it. Be as specific as you can be. Who is the best audience to hear this commercial or PSA? A lot of times students will make the mistake of saying, my target audience is everyone, because this project, doesn't have any content concerns, so it's good for everyone, kids, adults, all ages, anybody. But then when I have the conversation with those students, when we look closer, we say, okay, well, your ad commercial plan is for, let's say, a local car mechanic. Even though the content for that ad is going to be appropriate for kids and for anyone and can play at any time, it's totally PG or G rated, that doesn't mean that that they're all going to be your target audience. Your target audience is the best group to hear it. Who is it going to benefit the most? And so when I say things like, well, are kids going to have the money to hire a mechanic? Then the student says, well, no. And then when I say, well, is somebody who is under 16 years of age, like a teenager who's 14 or 15, who doesn't have a driver's license and can't drive a car, are they going to benefit from a car mechanic service? Well, probably not. And then we say, well, you're located in Ohio, but we have somebody in Tennessee. Are they going to be the best person to hear this ad? Are they going to be driving their broken down car up to Ohio to use this person's service? Well, no, probably not. So you really have to think about ages, geographic location, and who is the best person to hear your pitch. Okay? So be as detailed as you can be. Then we're talking about a primary distribution channel. This is an idea that you have that you think would be a good fit for your client, something they would probably want in terms of sharing your final video edit with their target audience. How would they share that? Examples include the website, local TV cable channel, an in-store feed. If you want to think about social media channels, just be specific, guys. Think about the client's Facebook channel specifically, or the client's YouTube channel, not both, not all of social media, because each social media channel has different setup and different requirements, different formatting and sizes, and sometimes different costs to share there or promote or boost. So we want you to be as specific and detailed as possible. Under that primary distribution channel, who's the owner of the channel? Is it your client? And again, this is something that we still don't have to talk to the client yet. If you are researching this brand and this company and you're familiar with them, you should be able to find out through your research, do they have a Facebook page? Do they have a YouTube channel? Okay. Costs, are there any costs applicable for the channel that you're choosing? And then describe the process of distributing through the channel. So are you just uploading a file? Do you have to apply? Do you have to reach out to, the local TV channel and fill out an application? What's the process? And then we have a secondary distribution channel with the same questions. Who is the owner? What are the costs? What is the process? Now the secondary channel, I want you guys to think outside of the box, and I want you to think of a potential distribution option that you would pitch to the client that maybe they hadn't thought of before. So try to make them think outside of the box, maybe outside of their comfort zone. And what is another maybe more unique way that you can get their message out there to their audience? That's it. At the bottom, there's some reminders, how to upload, what to name your file, turn it in by the deadline. And at this time, I just want to do a quick reminder. This information is in our professionalism checkoff, but our late policy in this class and in the program is that students can submit project work for up to 3 days past due with a deduction of 10 points per day. If you need to upload late work, first of all, we always request that if you can, you email your teacher in advance of the deadline. Let us know if you're having trouble and you're needing to turn in work late. But after you turn in your late work, after you upload it to the portal, be sure to send me an email. My email is jemiller@fullsail.com. Send me an email because I do not get notifications from FSO of late submissions. So the only way that I'll know your work is there and ready to be graded late is if you send me an email. Then I also want to tell you guys, since you're here or if you're watching this archival, naming conventions are really important in this class. In most of the rubrics, they're valued at either 5 or 10 points per file. So that could be a quick letter change if you do not name your file correctly. So it's something that's easy to do, that'll boost your grade and help your points. If you take a couple minutes to do it right at the end, always double check what the requested naming convention is for each submission, okay? That is it, guys. That's our entire presentation. That's our proposal assignment. Do you guys have any questions that I can help you with? You can type them into the chat box or you can raise your hand. I also want to say that this is our only class-wide go-to training that I typically do. And the reason for that is because I am constantly doing one-on-one go-to trainings. So if you're running into trouble or if you're getting stuck, it's usually easier and makes more sense for me to have a private one-on-one training because once we start getting into our chosen concepts, everyone's client and idea is going to be so different that a lot of times I need to try to tailor the assistance and the questions individually to that person and who their client might be, if that makes sense. So I tend to just do one-on-one trainings after this. And if you guys need a one-on-one go-to training, then all you have to do is send me an email and we will get that set up during a time that works with your schedule. Okay, Zachary and Jacob, do you have any questions that I can help you with before I let you go today? Okay, All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and shut down this recording, but thank you so much for coming. And if you're watching the archival, thank you for watching. And please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any point this month if there is anything that I can help you with. Questions are my job, and I love my job, so you are not ever going to be bothering me. So please don't hesitate to check in and let me know if there's anything I can do for you, okay? All right, guys, thanks for coming. I'll see you online. Bye.